Hey there. Today, let's uncap the incredible science hidden inside something you probably have sitting in your fridge right now. Yeah, just a simple carton of milk.
But that brings up a really fascinating question, right? Have you ever stopped to wonder how some of those cartons can just sit in your pantry for months, no fridge, without spoiling? I mean, it kind of seems to defy logic, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're talking about a shelf life of 6 to 12 months. Now, this isn't magic, not at all. It's actually a masterpiece of modern food science. It's this super carefully choreographed process that protects and transforms milk on its long journey to you.
So to solve this mystery, we've got to rewind the clock. We're going all the way back to the farm. The answer, it turns out, is in this incredibly high-tech journey that starts the very second the milk leaves the cow.
Okay, so the first and most critical challenge is a total race against time. You see, raw milk, as nutritious as it is, well, it's also the perfect breeding ground for bacteria. And the urgency here is, well, it's incredible. Freshly drawn milk is pretty warm, around 35 degrees Celsius. Now get this. At that temperature, the bacteria in it can literally double every 20 minutes. That's just wild. And that's exactly why the first, most critical step is to cool it down, and fast, down to 4 degrees Celsius or even colder. This just immediately slams the brakes on all that microbial growth, protecting the milk's quality right from the get-go.
All right, so with that biological clock slowed way down, the milk finally arrives at the dairy. And now it's time for phase 2, which is all about making it clean, creamy, and consistent for us.
First up, the milk gets put through what you could call a purification gauntlet. Simple straining and filtration get rid of the obvious stuff, bits of straw, maybe some hair. But the real deep clean, the one that gets rid of all the microscopic gunk, that comes from a process called clarification.
And the power we're talking about here is just immense. A clarifier is basically a superpowered centrifuge. It spins the milk with a force of up to 6,000 Gs. Think about that. This incredible force separates out everything from fine sediment and something called somatic cells all the way down to tiny little clusters of bacteria. What you're left with is incredibly pure milk. So after it's cleaned up, it's all about consistency. Dairies have to meet these really strict legal standards for fat content and what's called solids not fat, or SNF for short. For instance, you know how you can buy whole milk, or toned milk, or double-toned milk? They all have different legal requirements. So to meet those standards, dairies do something pretty clever. They completely separate the cream and the skim milk, and then they blend them back together in just the right amounts to hit those exact targets in every single carton.
All right, next up, texture. Have you ever noticed how you never get that thick layer of cream on top of your store-bought milk? Well, that is definitely not an accident. It's all thanks to a process called homogenization.
So what homogenization does is it forces the milk through this teeny tiny opening at an insane pressure. We're talking up to 2,500 psi. This just completely shatters the large fat globules into microscopic little bits, making them so small that they stay evenly suspended in the milk. And this is key. It doesn't just stop that cream layer from forming, it's also what gives milk that beautifully smooth texture and its consistent, pure white look. Okay, now we're at what is probably the most critical step for our safety: winning the war on germs. This is where thermoprocessing comes in, and it's basically a precisely calculated battle against all those invisible pathogens that could, make us sick.
For decades, the standard way to do this was the batch method, heating milk at a low temperature for a long time. But the modern dairy industry, it runs on something called HTST, which stands for High Temperature Short Time Pasteurization. This means they heat the milk to 72 degrees Celsius for just 15 seconds. It is so much more efficient, and it's every bit as effective at wiping out those harmful organisms.
And the HTST system itself is really a marvel of engineering. It has these super clever parts like the regenerator. Get this, it uses the heat from the milk that's already been pasteurized to preheat the cold milk coming in. That alone saves up to 95% in energy. And then it has these brilliant fail-safes, like something called the flow diversion valve. If any milk hasn't reached that perfect temperature, this valve automatically sends it back for another round. It's a built-in guarantee for safety. All right, let's bring this all back home now and finally solve that mystery we started with. The final step is all about creating the sterile shield. This, right here, is how we get from regular refrigerated milk to that amazing pantry-stable stuff. So, pasteurization makes milk safe to drink, sure, but it'll only last for a few weeks in the fridge. For that long-life milk, you need something way more powerful. Instead of old-school sterilization, which, by the way, cooked the milk for over 15 minutes, modern dairies use UHT. That's ultra-high temperature processing. UHT literally zaps the milk at an incredible 135 to 150 degrees Celsius, but only for 2 to 5 seconds. This achieves what's called commercial sterility while, and this is the cool part, preserving so much more of the milk's original flavor and nutrients.
But here's the thing. Killing all the germs is only half the battle. Think about it. You also have to package that super clean milk in a completely sterile environment. This is what's known as the aseptic promise. It's where three perfectly sterile things have to come together at once: the UHT milk, a sterile package, and a sterile filling zone. It's this three-part system that makes absolutely sure no new germs can get in.
And the final result of all that? Well, it's that incredible combination of the ultra-high temperature blast and that protective aseptic packaging. Together, they create a safe, stable product that can literally travel anywhere in the world and then sit on your shelf for months on end, perfectly preserved. So there you have it. From a warm liquid on a farm to a sterile, shelf-stable product in your pantry, the journey of market milk is a true marvel of science and engineering, isn't it? It's a race against time, a gauntlet of purification, and a high-tech war on germs, all happening behind the scenes. So that leaves us with one question. What other everyday products should we dive into next? I'd love to hear your ideas. Thanks for joining me on this one.